Welcome to the Spiritist Society of Richmond. I'm going to read from The Way, the Truth, and the Life by Chico Xavier, by the Spirit Emmanuel. Chapter 16, Make Straight the Way. Make straight the way of the Lord, he said, the prophet Isaiah, John the Baptist, from John chapter 1, 23. The exhortation of the precursor continues to hang in the air, inviting men and women of goodwill to the regeneration of their usual ways. All the time, we see people who come to the faith eager for what Christ has to offer. They long for his peace and divine presence, but sometimes, after their best sentiments give way to unjust anxiety, they end up discouraged and defeated. Where is Jesus? Why hasn't he answered their continual pleas? In what distant realm, so far from their suffering, does the Master reside? They do not understand that Christ may be found every day right beside every true disciple in the kindly messengers of his love. They lack dedication to their own inner good. They run in pursuit of the divine Master, heedless of John's counsel, make straight the way. In order for one to feel Christ's sanctifying influence, one must straighten the pathway on which one has been living. Many persons weep on the byways of wrongdoing. They mourn for themselves on the slippery slopes of continuous error. They call out to heaven, but continue to hang on the oppressing passions of the material realm. Under such circumstances, it is not appropriate for the soul to address the Savior who accepted humiliation and the cross without complaints of any kind. If you want Jesus to come and sanctify your activities, then make straight the ways of your life and regenerate your impulses. Get rid of the darkness that surrounds you, and you will feel him beside you with his blessings. You're welcome.
So let's take a moment. Feel very comfortable in the blessed space of our center. Close your eyes if you feel safe to do so. And repeat the words of the prayer in your mind. Dear Mother, Father God, thank you so much for bringing us here today. Thank you so much for the blessings we have in our lives, for the opportunity of this reincarnation, for our family, for our friends. We thank you for giving us all that we have. We thank the mentors of this house who protect us, who guide our works. We thank our own mentors and the mentors of our families who constantly give us advice, who inspire us and help us towards the right path. We pray that today we can receive the loving energies that heal, that console, that help us in our spiritual, emotional, psychological growth. And we pray that the teachings today can be brought to our daily lives. Please bless those who have their names in the book of prayer so that they can receive also the visit of many loving, caring spirit workers who can help them wherever they are in the world. We pray for your protection, and with your permission, we begin our studies today. So, what a blessing, friend. We'll be talking today. Sure, there's no music. Okay. So we do close our doors around after the prayer, just so that we are calm and we don't have to worry about it. And she'll contact us, and then maybe as families, full of the children, all the work you guys do as parents is a blessing. And we do have activities for children too. I will talk to you about it at the end of our conversation. But today we'll be talking about multitude of inhabited planets. And our conversations are cumulative in a sense that we build towards what's coming next. So we're going to be talking about talked about collaboration and cooperation last week with the book Jesus in the Home as you participated. So today we'll be talking about the different types of worlds that exist. As a reminder, if you are a spiritist, you may know. If you're not, you're going to learn. Because we want to know where we were and where we're going. Next time we're going to be talking about the transition on the earth with an emphasis of the Spiritist Center. So we can realign our mission with the mission of the Christ to help us. So it won't be just necessarily about the planetary transition alone, but how can you and I take these to our daily lives and help? Because we are the minority on the earth in terms of spiritists. That does not mean people don't know of these in other religions. It's just our unique take and the push we have to apply the teaching to our daily life. So it's intellectual progress, material progress, and this moral progress, all by the love of God. So in the book, in the Gospel According to Spiritism, this is the book that I have from the time that I used to go to the SSB, the Spirit Society of Baltimore. So it's been seen better days, but that's how you show that you actually use it. I have to be careful it doesn't fall apart here at the podium. But the Gospel According to Spiritism brings to us unique teachings in terms of the explanation of Jesus' sayings when he was on the earth. Remember, we are in the United States. He was born 2,000 years ago in Palestine, right? Today, Israel. So there was a different context. He spoke a different language. So we have to rely on the translations, and we bless those committees who come together to bring. That's why we read different translations to have a better understanding of what he said. So Kardec, under the guidance of the good spirits, of course, I always say Kardec said, but Kardec compiled what the spirit said. So if I know, sometimes the spirit will sign, sometimes the spirit won't sign. So if it's noted who they are, I will say Saint Augustine. Sometimes Kardec himself makes comments. So each and every book of the five, plus What is Spiritism, plus Spiritism Simple Expression, plus the Spiritist magazine, plus posthumous works, has a structure. And we need to know what the structure is to better learn about how to study the book. The same way that each book of Emmanuel is structured a certain way, each book of Andrea Luiz. And in this book, chapter 3 is titled In Many Mansions of My Father's Home. Actually, I'm going to quote from In My Father's House Are Many Mansions. This is a translation by the British Spiritist, the British Union of Spirit Societies by Janet Duncan. There are other books for other groups, but that's the one that I use. That's the one we also have here. And Kardec will use Bible quotes, and then the spirits come and explain through many of the mediums that we know who they are, some we don't know, many of them young, teenage mediums, some older mediums. You've probably watched the videos of Kardec, the movies and everything. And hopefully now that we are here, was a year this month since we opened this headquarters last year. So we have more opportunities. So when the new movies come, we can find a way between all of us that we can stream it here after it gets released, right? So we have to wait for movie release in the theaters, and then we have to wait for streaming somewhere. So we'll work on many things we can do together. So he will quote John 14. Can you read for me, Eric?
Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also.
So this is a quote from Jesus, and you're like, many mansions. My father's house, who's my father? Where's the house? Where's the mansion? So Kardec comes and explains to us that the Father's house is the universe. So everything that you see and what you don't see was created by God. It says, many mansions are the worlds that circulate in the infinite space and offer the spirit, you and I, who incarnate on them, the spaces of the worlds, dwelling places corresponding to their progress. So that's the explanation. So everything you see on this universe, you probably see others that came before will come after. Visible and invisible. Why do I say visible and invisible? Because we know there's the spirit world. We know also that our machinery only sees certain things related to the, if you go to the NASA website, which I recommend you do, because there's taxpayers who pay for it, you see the Hubble pictures, you see the new telescope that went out. We also have many other, Chandra is one of them. They have not just visible light, but IR light, blue light, magnetic field. So once they put it all together, there are beautiful people in the world with talents who can make those things visible to you and I. So what we see is only a sliver. Animals see more, others see less. So everything in the universe created by God is populated. This is now in this Spiritist review. So when we look out on the sky, without light pollution. Every single flickering sun out there is a world that can be populated. We know our sun is populated by superior spirits. We're going to see later in celestial worlds. The light that they produce from the sun, the power that reaches us, is what sustains the physical life that we have on the planet through photosynthetic um, processes. But life is everywhere, life and intelligence in solid globes in the air, in the depths of the earth, even in the ethereal. So nowhere we can say, as we say material, as a scientist, I see people say this, it's a very arrogant way of being, because it's, well, absence of evidence is not evidence of the negative. So just because we haven't detected life elsewhere, doesn't mean the life is not there. It just means we haven't detected. Also, because we build machinery to look for life, just like we are, right? We can yet conceive the periodic table they have. When you talk about non-solar, it's there. Nobody sees unless you're medium. So the scientists of the world will one day catch up, especially as the new imagery of the telescopes come in and the new calculations. So we want to feel part of the whole. So if you look at the Milky Way, we're just one tiny speck in the whole Milky Way. And there are many Milky Ways. There are many different types of galaxies. So you want to do this exercise of seeing yourself as a unique, necessary part of the universe, but not only us. We're not the only ones who have life as we know in the world. But what kind of spirits are there in each world? This is what the spirits say to us. Some are more elevated, others are less advanced from intellectual, moral, and even physical point of view, which explains, as he says on this part of the book, why do we see still so much misery, poverty, cruelty? Is because from the 8 billion incarnate plus their friends, our friends, we are included in incarnate beings, we have friends, one or two, maybe three more per person. We are all in different levels of evolution. Question 100 to 112 in the Spirit's book. So when we go there, we can actually highlight how you feel that day, because each day you're going to feel different. Each day you're going to have a different set of experiences. Some days we're more caring, some days we're less caring, some days we're kinder, some days we're less kind. So every next time we look around and we ask myself, how is God even existing when it's allowing all of these? It's a unique and valid question that everybody does. But the degree of the spirit's elevation determines each world will be incarnated in. So not only explains what we see on the earth as a world of trials and expiations, but also explains when we don't believe that we are still here. How many times are like, I can believe I don't belong here. I'm so much better. I do this differently. So it's still the experience that we need. So you want to feel present and part of this group of spirits who are growing and with a unique responsibility of making it all better. Because if one spirit gets better, the whole moves forward. Because the laws of progress. So think about the world Earth, 4.5 billion years is the current calculation of the age of the Earth. Okay, so if you think about Jesus was there before because he planned the formation of the Earth on the way to the life by Emmanuel. That's the quote. That's where that comes from. So that he met, and he has a group of spirits of high elevation is directing each and every part of life's progress. In the beginning, the globe was gaseous, right? The formation of the solar system. Now each Christ spirit for each world is doing the same, and they're guiding the formation of the earth as it is. And then we were a planet where there was volcanic activity, rain. There was not conducive to the life that we know, organic life as we know. And then we progressed, and you can start seeing the formation of the first life forms, and then small, birds, first vegetation, then reptiles, birds, and so on, to the point that we now can, as human beings, Homo sapiens sapiens, be here. But there were other Homo type species before. So the Earth itself has gone through progress. We were there, maybe not. Maybe we were on a different planet waiting for the Earth to be ready to receive us. Some of us, we know sometimes we spend some time in a place to be acquaintance to that family. Mundo example in the Missionaries of the Light. He was spending months with the family. They weren't quite getting along because of what they did in the past. And then eventually they work it out during the night for him to reincarnate. Same with us. The book No Solar explains people spend a long time learning, growing, planning to come down. So now that we know that each and every globe is populated, we are only one of the billions and trillions that there are. Let's talk about each and every part of the world, because that's a glimpse of what we're going to be. So there are 5 different types of worlds, from the most primitive to the celestial divine. So worlds where Christ-like spirits live, would be celestial divines. So then it goes from primitive to trials and expiation, us. Then it goes through regeneration, happy or blessed, or celestial or divine. So that's the law of progress. Each world also is in collaboration with one another. 2 books from Divaldo, Planetary Transition. Also from Emmanuel, there's an example, Alcyone, who comes from a different star system to here to help one specific person, was her mission, one person she was following. But in the Planetary Transition book, which is an explanation of what happened right after the tsunami in 2004, Manuel Filomeno de Miranda brings to us that many spirits from other orbs, more elevated than we are incarnating on the earth in specific locations to boost those communities from the inside out, versus me going there, parachuting and helping people. You see them today, because if they were born in 2004, 2005, they would be almost 20 years old now. So you see the community organizers, the people who are bringing the technology, the knowledge, and growing the communities from inside out. So we are in collaboration with the world. When we receive spirits from a capella, those Christ spirits are communicating, collaborating. Some people stayed here for a while. They learned what they had to learn. They went back. Some are still here. Some of those spirits on the way to the light by Emmanuel. And the spirits will tell us it depends on the level of good and evil, the balance between good and evil in each world. They also say here that it's not steps. It's more of a gradation. So Earth has been in trials and expiations for a long time. And now we're in planetary transition. That does not mean tomorrow we wake up and the world is regenerated. It's a process, because you have to replace old habits to have new habits. You have to replace old ways of being, technology, to have the new ones. So 2,000 years ago, you cut your finger. I was going to say on paper, but there's no paper. You're walking around on your sandals and you scrape your finger, your toe. There was a chance you could die of infection, simple toe scratch, or animal bit you or something. Nowadays we have antibiotics. So it's a progress, it's slow, but it took many centuries of progress for us to get to that point. And today we have technologies such as the vaccines we saw the past 3 years that weren't there 20 years ago. So it's slow progress. It could be accelerated if we knew our role as an immortal soul to make that effort each and every day. And that the one point of being here is to do the self-knowledge so that you can take that and apply it to your daily lives and help your family members improve through example, not preaching. So let's go through each world and see if we still don't see some of the traces of primitive features in our world. Okay, so we're going to go through the 5 of them. So it says, the Spirit say, receive the initial incarnations of the human soul, brute force, no industry, no inventions. Spirit spend time looking for food. We have rudimentary bodies. Instincts are not softened to sentiments of delicacy and benevolence, no justice or injustice. Think Stone Age. Think when people make these movies like Planet of the Apes type of situation, where we are still very material. And some of us are still very material, living through brute force, no industry. And that's up to the ones who already have the technology to go and share the love of the society. What I do complements what you do. My talents complement the talents of others. And we still spend time looking this more an animal-like, because the animals do have feelings. They have sentiments. They have instincts. But a lot of their preoccupation, depending on which, even within the animal kingdom, you have different gradations, right? So a Labrador is different from a crocodile. So the preoccupations are different. Maybe if the Labrador didn't receive anything from us, like they do, they may have a different, if you take it away, sometimes you see animals who get lost. When the rescuers come, they're a little bit more aggressive because they revert back to food, water, shelter, protection. That's what's the before. And like it's a gradation. There may be places on the earth, things that people do that we're like, how can people do that stuff? It's still the evil inside of them predominating over good. Now, when I say evil greater than good, that does not mean good is not the most important thing in the universe. Think about the book Missionaries of the Light. Workers of Life Eternal. That's 1 week of work. They come and rescue. They're helping a discarnation of several spirits. That's 1 week of one group of spirits that André Luis belongs to. That multiplies that by millions. There are 8 billion of us. Each one has a mentor. They have their mentors. We have all the spiritual colonies. The good reigns in the world. But where we are tuned with the evil. That's why we see sometimes. And this is one part of the problem. Because I can know what happens in Nepal within seconds, within half an hour, which didn't used to be before. So what gets sold, what gets clicks, what gets ads is the negative. We're still there. How many times have we shared something good? Or know of a website like Good News Network, Positive News, Greater Good for Science, which is a scientific endeavor in UCLA, if I'm not mistaken, where it studies kindness or doing good to others. And there are others on the spectrum of academia that are still already studying the kindness.org is another one. So most likely people share the disasters and the problems. But the good is there. The good is reigning because God is love. God is not. And when we talk about instincts not sovereign, we're talking about you and I were created simple and ignorant. We don't even know what that means or how it looked like to have a brand new born spirit. We also don't know what it is to be a Christ spirit and live in a divine world. That's explained on this chapter by saying, you guys don't have the language, the knowledge, the imagination. So when we see movies nowadays who do things like people get out of their bodies and travel. They travel for galaxy. That's all exists. Someone was taken there, maybe shown a movie, maybe experienced, and they come to the earth. Spiritists are not doing that yet. So they go to Hollywood, and Hollywood makes the movies with the flying objects, the cities, right? So that plants the seed in people's minds. See, there's other things out there. Now, trials and expiations, this is us. We observe lots of vices and moral imperfections, a mix of spirits in the earlier stage of development, with more elevated spirits helping those dwelling in evil. Now, there's not one type of primitive world, there's not one type of trials and expiations. This is just a category. Just like the spirits in the spirits book tell us that when they say imperfect, good, and perfect, that's just didactically is as a teacher, you have to break things down in blocks. We talked about when we talked about the law of love, the divine alphabet starts with love, and the second word is reincarnation. So when you building the blocks, so to speak, you need to know A, B, C, D. You need to know that you can put A and B together, C and A together, and then you build the blocks. So there are trials and expiations worlds are just left primitive, and there's trials and expiations like ours who is moving to regeneration. But it's gratitude. Just like today we are summer. It's hot. Tomorrow will be a little less. And then September will come. And then it will be a little cooler and cooler. You don't wake up and it's snowing. Well, unless you are in somewhere like Colorado or Yosemite, which it may change throughout the day, but it's not gonna be winter overnight. It's not gonna be fall. One day you wake up, all the trees are naked and the leaves on the ground. That'll be easy for us, right? We don't have break glass, but it's not. Nature is gradual. So is our progress as spirits. So we determined how the planet is, and we take from the planet molecules to make our spiritual body. That's why you cannot just go to another planet. You have to have a transition period. And then we have to think about the things we use. This is all technology that when I was in grad school, we didn't have. Maybe the school had a projector, transparency. When I was in college, we had transparent. We had to write or something, right? Yeah, so we are growing, we're improving, and now it's to a point that we can afford it, right? Because before, computers were taking whole rooms, whole basements. Now you can have something on this, and I have a computer because it's more easier, but I could connect this to there and do my PowerPoint here. In the future, we're gonna have, they just did, right, experiment where they made the materials float, Aerobus, no solar. The bus floats, volitates, right? It's not bound to gravity like we have. Regeneration, that's where we're going. Planetary transition. It's a transition phase between probation and happiness. This is penitent souls rest, find calms, and continues to progress. Experience sensations and desires were liberated from ungoverned passions. Those books we read, Planetary Transition, On the Way to the World of Regeneration, posthumous works, has a big thing about planetary transition, that the new generation of spirits. And also others who show to us that some spirits are getting their last chance of reincarnating on the earth from the abysses. Because we talk about umbral, lower zones. The lower zones also have gradations. We tend to think of one, but so Nosolar is at the top of the lower zones, umbral. And then there's the outposts, the colonies, and there's the crust that we here share. And then it goes down. There are spirits in the depths of the earth that still need to progress to the point. So what we see in terms of these ungoverned passions are some of those spirits who are unable, they're rebellious. So what happened to a capella? The spirits were there. The capella system, it's a binary system. Was progressing like us. Those spirits were unable to follow the progress. They wanted to do dwell in evil. So that Christ spirit talked to our Christ spirit, and Jesus accepted those souls here. So the question is, are we able to release the control and allow God and follow God's plan of progress, so that in the next reincarnation we'll return to the earth to be with our loved ones and continue the progress? Or are we going to self-exile? When people say planetary transition exile, they misunderstand that God is saying, you're there, you're there. No, it's a self-choice. When I choose to be kind, I'm choosing goodness. When I choose to, sometimes we don't choose, we go by instincts. We're tired, we don't have mindfulness, we respond So that's a choice that aligns my vibration with a certain group of spirits versus kindness will align you with the good. So that's where the triage we're seeing. Those spirits who do the atrocities we see won't be allowed to return because they would hinder the progress. They would have to go to a different planet where they may have the knowledge of the technology, but it will live in a very primitive, more material, because that's what they need. Because the spirits say either we progress through love or through pain. We're still choosing pain. A lot of us who come to Spiritism, how? We have a problem, we suffer, we don't know the answers, and we find the answers. Few of us were blessed to be born in a Spiritist family and have that teaching, and that's what the blessings of your children will have. They still have the choice of not following, but you need to plant the seed. And the soil will improve as you nourish the soil. So what kind of soil do we have for the Spiritist teaching inside of our hearts? And say perfect equity resides all over social relationships. Everyone recognizes God and try to travel to God and fulfill God's laws. The dawning of happiness, perfect happiness does not exist. We still suffer from tests, still of flesh and blood. So when the regeneration says, we even careful when people say, oh, it's going to be a year, whatever, because we have choice. Tomorrow, someone on the earth can choose to retrograde all of us. Each person has a choice. So it's a transition. It's not like January 1st, 2130. It's not like a date. This is us, you and I. But the spirits have a long plan. 4.5 billion years, Jesus has been watching over us. And that's why to be a superior spirit, to be a mentor, you have to have patience. You have to have experienced that to know it's okay to let them take their time. So we're still going to reincarnate. We're still going to discarnate. We're still going to have diseases because we are purging those lower vibrations that cause damage in our paraspiritual bodies that now reign the physical. So we're going to see all kinds of things. But then when we see someone who is in more need, who is disabled, who have less, we will be able to reach them with the social networks that we have, the laws of society. Nobody got here by themselves. Even if the parents drop someone here, a baby wouldn't survive. So someone had to take care of us. Someone had to teach us. Someone had to build the roads. Someone had to build the things that I'm using now. So even when we are here for all these years, we still are not doing this alone. The mentors are guiding us. In happy or blessed worlds is the next step. So after regeneration will be like you had surgery. You have pain. And then tried everything that surgery. It took the pain. Took the piece that wasn't working, put a new one. I don't know. You replace the hip. You don't go from operating table to your couch. You have to spend some time in the hospital, little time. Hospital is not the best place on the earth. It's a blessed place. When you enter a hospital, just like you enter here, you ask Jesus for permission. You visualize the spirits there. You pray for the physicians. When you're waiting, we all wait in waiting rooms to see primary care physicians. Pray for them up there so they can be inspired to the answers. They can feel good and type their notes. So when they come to you, they're not frazzled. They can be mindful and help you. When you're doing your nails, massage, whatever, whoever is in touch with caring for your physical body, want to see that. So we're going to be on that. Some people have to go to the ICU because they were sicker before surgery. Some go to step down. Some go to the floor. Then you have to make arrangements to come home and to be able to keep the health that you just worked so hard to. That's regenerations, that coalesce. You're tired of suffering, you made a decision. So we're going to slowly see the ills of the world. We're going to be brought together to realize we are one. COVID did supposed to do that, what we saw. Once a thing happened there, took the whole world, we have to come together to help one another. Some of us took the message, some didn't, and we keep moving. A lot of people discarnated collectively. There's a lot of information on the Spirit's book about collective discarnations for war. We still have war. Last week, there were 500,000 soldiers that died on that war already. The Ukraine side alone. So now imagine the suffering in the spiritual realm. The blessed is God that doesn't give that vision to everybody. We all go crazy if we saw. But some folks are still choosing that. and others are following their duty towards their country. So there will be a lot of spirits who will be needing to come back here or elsewhere, who will need loving families to heal those wounds. I work in the military hospital. A lot of the sickness we see is due to that spiritual, psychological, emotional state. On top of the physical exposures that they had, the things they saw, the things they did, they were doing their job. But it's up for us to come together and provide them with the healing. Medicine is still very taking care of the physical, but we have whole health, we have pain clinics, we have psychology, we have all kinds of things. Coaches now, they're doing coaches, they're doing nutrition classes, cooking classes. Every year we offer more services because we want them to stop the disease process or slow so that they don't. But some people have to go through. When you are born, it's not an easy task to be born, not for the baby, not for the mom. Now you're like there cozy and warm. Someone's feeding you, someone's giving you oxygen, caring for you. Then you have to come out, you have to breathe on your own, you have to grow back gut bacteria, you have to grow teeth, you have to learn to walk. That's all necessary evolutionary pain that we do every time someone is guiding us. And sometimes the disease of the body are for you and I to learn humility, to learn to ask for help, to learn the, you know, that's not, it's not pleasant. I'm not saying go look for disease. I'm just saying it is, it is what it is. Now when you get to happy world, so regeneration will probably take a few thousand years in regeneration too. We don't know. Only the superior spirits who care for us. For us to have an idea of how good is so prevalent. If you go to the book Missionaries of the Light, Rachel is being protected for the first 24 days of her since conception. They take her to the first night when the egg and the sperm come together to form the zygote. Sigismund's already attached to her, so you can visualize that next time you see a pregnant lady. There's already babies there with her. They take her to a park. That's why nature is important. Now we know nature bathing. Have you heard of it? Nature bathing. Go for walks. We're already catching up. Then they take her there. The spirits who are in the woods. That's why it's so devastating to see the fires that taking the logging, and because we need those. They go and find the specific tree, the specific fruit and flower to give those molecules to her, put her in the water, and she drinks all in the spiritual realm. And that's why we bring the water, for the spirits to infuse the water. Of course, the water is voluntary, but it's spring water in the physical. So even we think about the mentors who care for us. So there's at least 8 billion of them, each one for each. Then we have to think of every creature from the simplest virus to the human, all the vegetation, all the animals. They all have spiritual guides caring for them. So they have to be more elevated than we are, because we can barely deal with when a pet gets sick, right? So imagine caring for animals, farming. You have to think about the good that is reigning in the world. So when we get there, happy or blessed, relationships are friendly, there's no slaves or masters, no privilege by birth, only moral intellectual superiority. Ties of love and brotherhood bind all humanity, the strong help the weak. Example given, nosso lar. Who runs nosso lar? The politician who got most money? No. Or looks the best? No. The governor is the one who has worked the most. He and Veneranda are the only ones who have visited Jesus for the colony. That's just a colony on top of the lower zones, which is above us, because we are on the level of the lower zones. So they have merit. People respect them. And we have people on the earth who lead institutions who have that already. So for us to have a glimpse of what's to come. So imagine every country, they have a group of spirits who lead the country. Ismael is one of them. We have, the founding fathers of the US who are in the behind the scenes guiding us. But in a world of happy or blessed, those spirits are even more elevated. There's nobody allowing the things that they don't have the physical instincts, the material attachments to provoke war, they say here. Authority deserves respect and is only given to those who merit. Because on the earth, we can fake authority, we can fake knowledge, we are skilled politicians. But there, it's all, they don't have the physical body that we have to restrain. They can read each other's minds. So it's clear. When we are discarnated, we're going to be where our mind is. Purified sentiments, nobody hates, no jealousy, no envy. So you see how far we are yet to be. We acquire processors for intelligence of small or larger quantity. There's no needs, no one needs to attune. The reason I say no solar is because, of course, Richmond has its own no solar. Every big city has to have a no solar to receive the spirits, to care for the outposts, but that's the one we have most knowledge. And I usually say André Luis came in when he was ready. The whole time he was in lower zones, the spirits were caring for him. He couldn't see them. He was not in the same vibratory attunement. Then he was taken, but he wasn't taken to the field of music. He was taken to the hospital, closer to the lower zones. Then he received treatment. He left. Nobody said, here, here's a bill. We cared for you for all this time. Pay me. No, it didn't happen. He didn't get a tent and go sleep on the street. Someone received him, a family who had worked 30 years to acquire that building. That is their family. But all is communal. The water that is infused with the molecules is led by the divine ministry, not by the people, by the higher spirits who organize the colony, because it's a vital source of nutrients for that colony. The prayers kept the magnetic field together. Everybody prayed at 6. So, and people can acquire things. They can have hobbies. They went to the field of music, but you have to earn the bonus hour. Where do you think salary comes from? It comes from us being there and having the idea to implement things here. So it's important that we keep thinking, how would I want to, where would I want to go? And then we start implementing that in our lives. We want to be more equitable. We want to be more just. Then we have to do that. Jesus said, do unto others what you want them to do to you. Luke, it's one of them. Luke 6. I was just talking about it last week, so it's still fresh in my mind where it comes from. There's one place in Matthew that he says that as well, but I can only remember Luke right now. So he didn't say, oh, this is what we do. I say, I don't want anybody to be rude to me, so I won't be rude to them. This is one step. I don't want people to cut me off in traffic, so I don't cut them off. I would like people to respect the light, so I stop at the stoplight. I stop at the red light. So you start doing what you want to see in the world, because thought is life. It starts with the thinking. Right now, we're able to stop ourselves from doing things. So I want to say something to my partner, and then I catch myself. I don't say it. That's one step. Celestial and divine. Now it's just an explanation, because we can't really imagine. Form is human, but more beautiful, more perfected, pure. Nothing of the earthly materiality, not subject to illnesses or deterioration. Senses are able to capture perceptions that we can't see. In the book, I think it's Messengers by André Luis, Asclepius comes. I don't know if you remember this part. He's in the higher sphere of the earth. And what do? They have a dome that protects them. That's one thing I'm going to bring to you, is the behind the scenes of the Spiritist Center, for us to, when we come here, visualize the protective shields that we have. They have a dome. They put the workers to materialize through their thought a scenery. They say, you're going to do the lake, you're going to do the vegetation, and infuse it with molecules. Then slowly he materializes, waist up. So he's in the higher spheres, doesn't have the physical body that we have. But in order for us to detect, he had to materialize with something that is familiar to us. So when we think, oh, am I going to see my loved ones? Potentially when you pass on a Spiritist meeting, they're going to show themselves to us with the images that we remember them. So people may see Mother Teresa as Mother Teresa, Dulce as Dulce, right? They may have other forms, but when they come to show themselves, they're going to, something we will remember. And he, Asclepius, was dreaming about going to Jupiter. Happy or blessed. The Spiritist magazine has 2 articles about Jupiter. Small ones. It talks about dwellings. There are animal dwellings for animals, such as primates and dogs and things. There are the helpers of humans. There's also no consumption of animals on those. It goes without saying. And then you have human dwellings, which are in the different parts of the planet. And a body that we don't understand because we have sent probes to Jupiter, close to Jupiter, not to Jupiter, because it's a gaseous planet. But Juno has, and you can see if we go to NASA and Google, you're gonna see the beautiful pictures, colored and everything gets super close, and then it's not in orbit anymore, but it sent back the images of the physical features that we can detect. So they're there, and it says in the Spiritist magazine that the body lasts between 300 and 400 years, Earth years. They don't have the disease that we have, they don't need. And one important thing is this communication between spiritual realm and physical realm is seamless. And one of the things that Spiritism will do on the earth is to improve this ability of us connecting to the mentors. In the future, we're just going to know mediumship is normal. You may have a mental illness, but it could be mediumship, and it's going to be the default. And then we're going to pray in the morning, in the afternoon, now when we go home, and we're constantly practicing that communication. So nobody will be a spectacle. Ease of locomotion, they glide and they float. The development is rapid. Lightness of matter does not offer resistance to development. Short infancy, longer lives because no longer worry or anguish. So imagine you had a baby, and in a few months they're little toddlers, and they grow, and they're a person, and they are executing their abilities. They're doing what they came to do because they're prepared. They know the spiritual realm, and nobody suffers when we graduate. Because in the world, we celebrate births, which we should, because it's very difficult to get all the pieces together for a birth to be successful. But it's a challenge because it's almost like playing the lottery, because you made a plan, people received you, but you can choose to one of few actions, you can go a totally different plan. But when we discarnate, we don't celebrate that as much. It's harder for people to deal with the grief because as a culture, we don't appreciate aging. We don't care for the elderly as well as we should. It's all about youth. Youth. There's nothing wrong with youth. I'm trying to look better, improve. Well, as you improve your physical body in this life, you have a better instrument to exist. Because if you don't care for the body, what happens? Shorter lifespan, indirect suicide potential. So when we care for ourselves, we are honoring the gift that God gave us. That's part of what being incarnated is to exercise, because you don't exercise once and say, I'm done for the rest of my life. I don't need exercise anymore. You have to do it every day. You don't say, I eat once, then I don't have to eat. Even in the colonies, Nosolar still has some soups and juices. But they said that periodically the spirits come from higher realms to teach them to get the molecules from the air. Because if you and I could extract nitrogen from the air, we didn't need to eat protein in the physical form, because there's nitrogen in the air, nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon. Those are the building blocks of the molecules that in our gut we need to break it down to absorb, to rebuild. That's what nutrition is about. The oxygen, we think about the oxygen and the CO2, but nitrogen, sulfur, it's all in the air. So those spirits, they only breathe and they are nourished. So when we learn to be mindful and we learn to breathe, so one strategy to eat less is to breathe more, longer breaths, shorter breaths. So if you focus on not doing anything else, put this way, not doing anything else, and you chew and chew and chew the 50 times they say we should, by the fifth chewing, you may like, okay, half of this. So we can train ourselves, and we have a little glimpse of what it is to be. Imagine you don't have to suffer losing a tooth, growing a tooth, teething, walking, all of those things, like growing your gut microbiome because you were born without them. And that's what the milk or the formula and passing through the birth canal does. It populates, you're sterile pretty much in your uterus. When you pass through, you pick up because we are also in symbiosis with the bacteria, the archaea, the bacteria and the viruses. There's plenty of it in our skin, in our gut. So when the babies are crying and crying and crying, we don't know what to do. They are building that inside of them. They're growing, they're learning. It's automatic. Cool. So, pop quiz. How many types of planets? Kardec told us. 5. That's just for us to have an idea, but think about where we were, let's say 2 million years ago, where we're going to be. We're still progressing. This book was written in 1864, 63 to 64. And here they say the world is already going through transition. So there's been 200 years, there will be maybe 100 year more where we're still going, still improving. Well, the way people lived in Kardec's time was different than when we live now. And those people who are living more I'll say simpler, not more, the word they use is primitive, but it's simpler lives. We all evolved. Every life form that lives today has the same level of evolution because we survived and we pass along. But we have different levels of, someone who lives on a tribe is has to have a specific experience in the jungle than someone who lives in London, someone who lives here. So eventually we're all going to be able to see them as they need that experience so we can help them more and more and more. And St. Augustine talks about it on item 12:18. Can you read from here?
So at night, at the time of prayer and repose, contemplate the full canopy of the sky and the innumerable spheres which shine over your head, and ask yourself which one leads to God, and ask God for one of these regenerating worlds to open to receive you after your atonement here on earth. St. Augustine, 1862.
So the spirits are so loving that they tell us, it's a very simple, recurrent structure of Emmanuel's books, as I do the studies of Emmanuel for Kardec Radio. So it's always like he makes a statement. So they are telling us these are the types of worlds. And at the beginning of the book, he says superior worlds, inferior worlds. But he says this is just one way, and he gives general characteristics and dives deep. But then he said, okay, now you know, this is what you do. You visualize yourself there, you send, because worlds are in cooperation, in collaboration. Just like states are in collaboration. Some produce soy, some produce, chickpeas, some produce rice, and we trade and we expand. Some countries produce more, others produce something. So we are all in collaboration with one another. So are the worlds. So ask God for this regenerating worlds to open to receive us. And there may be something we will do. We'll have that choice. Remember, Bezia de Menezes had the choice to go elsewhere. He decided to stay because he had people in the earth that he wanted to help. Alcyone was already in a separate sphere, but she didn't have to deal with the things we do. The mentors warned her, you're going to go back to the earth. Remember how it is. You're going to be immersed in the dense fluids of the earth. There's a chance you're not going to fulfill your mission. You're going to get more things on your list of to-dos, add to the burdens. Do you still want to go? They allowed her to come. She helped the person to a certain extent in those books of Emmanuel. But the worlds are constantly, and who knows, maybe we say we use intelligent sleep, at night before you go to sleep, you pray, you thank God for the day, and you ask whatever you need. You need to make peace with your loved ones, you ask that you all go to a psychologist. You want to learn something new, you go ask, can I go to the class? You're studying, you go say, can I please take my book and go to a library in the spiritual realm or study overnight? Because you can continue the activities. But if we're not focused, we just, like our animals, like our cats and dogs, they're tired, they ate, they play, boom, find a little corner and sleep. Sometimes we do that. We're just so tired, we just sleep. But we're trying to make that effort of building the habits. Joanna says, we have a negative thought, replace with a good one. She doesn't say stop thinking negative thoughts. She says replace. Catch yourself with those thoughts. Say, no, this is not coming from me. I don't wish bad for this person. And then if you start, I'm going to pray. I open my eyes. I'm back on my bed. Right? There's a blessing because there's people who don't return. They stay. They discarnate overnight. And I say, thank you, God, for, if that's all we do, start with thank you, God, for bringing me back. And then you can brush your teeth, do whatever, and you think that you have a teeth to brush, that you have toothpaste. And you eat, you pray before food. Then the goal is to pray in this constant connection with the mentors and God. And then at night you do it again. So you start small and you build. One thing that I do, not I'm an example, but I have these guys. I have an older one that I bought at SSB at work. I have one at home. We have one at home. I have one at work. And what I do is before I leave, I put it like on my desk so that when I walk into my desk, there's no excuses right there. So it's engineering your environment. The same way we make plans for our careers, which courses we're going to take. We make plans for our exercise. They say on exercise in the morning, go prepare your clothing the night before and be ready. Because there's no excuse you have to, or make an appointment with someone else. You're more likely to show up. So I engineer my environment to have my book there. Do I do it every day? Most days I do. And then you open a random. I know it's not a random. And then we'll say, and you pray. And then you have a problem with a coworker, you're feeling stressed. It's right there. You have to make a choice to read. So you can engineer your environment to have. And for all that I say about these, you can download Kindle. Kindle is my phone for those who are listening on. You can download Kindle. You can download the Spiritist magazine, Kardec radio. And you are at Starbucks. I don't go to Starbucks, but I see all my colleagues do. Instead of scrolling Instagram that makes us feel depressed within 5 seconds because everybody seems to have a perfect life but us, you open Kindle and you can buy these. It's cheaper to buy on Kindle because you don't have to have the paper. We have some of these books here too that help out with our activities, fundraisers, but you can have it instantly. You just, when you go to Facebook, you unfollow a bunch of things that are not good for you, and you keep all the Spiritist centers, mention of the way, Maçã do Caminho, all the good stuff, and then you curate. You can go to the museum. It's not random. They are trying to show you, give you an experience. You can do that today. When you do exercise, you engineer your day and you schedule it and don't pass. So that's our homework, is to ask God that opens the mind for this world to receive us, even if it's temporary, because we may not want to go because our loved ones are here, but maybe we go there, spend a few lifetimes there, wherever there is, and you learn something and you come back, or you help move the planet along. Cool. Feeling good about where we're going, because it's all about positive. It's a lot of knowledge, but we need to know so that when we look around, we breathe and we pick up Joanna. Joanna is beautiful. They have this one. She's on this book. She is in color, so we can curate our days to be that way. Sounds good. So we're gonna stop our recording. So those who are on the internet, I allowed and welcome to join us every Sunday at 11 a.m. So we're going to go ahead with